This NFC South preview edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code SGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Hey, this is John Smoltz, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Cox. He's one of those guys who will get penetration.
Welcome everyone to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stacking the money green with my partner in picks, Ryan, Real Money Kramer. What's happening, Cram?
Dog.
NFL talk again.
National
Finally.
Football League.
We're back.
Yes, back talking NFL. Of course, check out Week 1 College Football Picks Podcast, Part 1, Part 2, covering all. Well, not all the games, but a bunch of the games that we did. Basically, a weekday episode with Thursday and Friday, and then obviously a Saturday slate as well. So, shout out to the chat. I see Japan in the chat. Japan, we did get your handwritten entry.
Can I say something about
yes.
Japan? Are we sure Japan is a man? Because that was some beautiful handwriting.
Yeah, Ryan was saying Japan, amazing handwriting. Japan, very mysterious figure.
Yeah, just thinking maybe we got a lady listener here. Maybe we could have uncovered something.
Shout out to ZD Mills, Daniel Enderlin in the chat. Everyone's fired up, ready to talk NFL football. And again, still time to catch up. All 32 NFL team previews. Go back, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/phrase. Get in over there. Has where you can submit your entry for the 32-word team, the team preview phrase, and a chance to win the $500 Circa NFL future. And if you do the handwritten, shout out to Ryan O'Flanagan. Also got his with a sweet selfie photo of the. I know he's a Panthers fan. A sweet selfie of him wearing the baby effing whale T-shirt.
It's a baby fucking wheel, man.
So yes, keep sending in the handwritten ones, but it's got to be received by Wednesday 8:30 p.m. Pacific time, because that is when we are taping, going live with the Week 1 NFL Picks episode. So. You have a little cutoff.
Have we gotten any requests to hand drop it off to the office?
No. The mail works. Feel free to mail it in. And
Just checking.
Again, shout out to the chat. Kramer, of course, we're doing our division previews.
Yes.
These are super fun, kind of recap where we were at with the division, the team previews. Maybe slight adjustment on the win totals. I think I still have 3, or no, I'm down to 2 wins I can adjust. I need to take away 2 wins to get the math exactly correct.
You're right on pace.
Right on pace. We have 3 division previews left. I got 2 wins to remove. First up, though, we got the Carolina Panthers win total set at 5.5. I went 5-12. You went 4-13 for the Carolina Panthers. Having any second thoughts? Bryce Young making a couple nice throws.
No.
Any optimism, Ryan?
I certainly could see the idea that Bryce Young has a year of playing football under his belt.
Yeah. I
now to the debate that you've been stoking this offseason of, do you play him right away or do you let him sit? He doesn't like. I almost have to assume he would have experienced more development from not playing based on what I'm seeing, because most of what I'm seeing him do that looks good in the preseason is the stuff that doesn't matter,
But
which is a little bit of scramble.
Why do you think he would have developed more?
Because he didn't develop at all is what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't see much development.
But maybe
at
he's
all.
just not
Yeah.
an NFL quarterback.
Sure.
But what I mean, how are you certain that he would have developed more?
That's what I'm trying to say is I'm making the assumption that it couldn't be worse because I'm not seeing much development at all. And this is a new quarterback coach, new coaching staff, new system. And basically what I see that he does well is the same stuff he did well last preseason, which he has some nice pocket elusiveness. And when he gets out to the outside, he can make a decent throw to a guy who's wide fucking open.
Yeah,
and I've seen him make some highlights like that. He's got some receivers that are going to get open, and so that's nice to see. But
yeah, I think the offense
in structure, he looks like trash.
Yeah, I mean, 5-12. It's like, yeah, I think they will be better. They won. What were they? 2-15 or 3-14?
But the stories that you're hearing,
yeah, they were 2-15. So I think they win 3 more games than last year. So I think they can improve and still go under this win total. I did hear a guy making a case for, basically first year quarterbacks who play their rookie year, who disappoint, taking the over the following year. But I don't even know if I think historically I agree to that angle, but I think, and now maybe it's just who we're tuned into, Ryan, that there is some optimism around this Panthers team, with everyone making a similar case of like, hey, he's the #1 pick overall. They're going to be better. They got Canales. They got the offense.
If you didn't listen to the team preview, I did uncover the reason to why a lot of sharp folks have found themselves gravitating to the Panthers. It's because they hired Lord of the Nerds, Eric Eager. and I do think that is somewhat influential, but what do? Their first draft with a nerd in the building, they draft a running back, Sean. So go figure. I would say that the optimism being baked around the idea that Canales can be this like quarterback whisperer, and that, hey, it can't possibly be as bad as it was last year. There was. Do you remember the optimism around last year?
Oh yeah,
the coaching staff.
Super
the win total was 7.5. So I think in some ways we're making the same mistake all over again.
Yeah,
and we actually have data that suggests to us that Bryce Young is not going to be an NFL quarterback. And like, if you're optimistic about this team, what is the ceiling case you're projecting for Bryce?
Yeah,
Young?
I've heard some so-called sharps predict this team to make the playoffs, which to me that is a bridge too far.
I think that's more of a case of, hey, this division could have some volatility.
Okay,
but still rank the quarterbacks in the division. Where does Bryce Young fall? Best case.
Best case.
Yeah.
3rd.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to get too excited about this team. There's not really a running game. Their best
that's the other thing
offensive
too.
weapon is a guy they probably shouldn't play too much this year. They got.
I mean, they drafted a running back with their first pick, coming off an ACL injury.
Xavier Legette is an amazing press conference watch, but the receiver they brought in free agency is coming from the Steelers. Generally, the Steelers know when to cut bait on a wide receiver. There's all these, and you know what? They're going to play great defense, Sean, right? And they're going to keep games close, and it's going to be a lot of running the ball. Well, then why get rid of Brian Burns, your best fucking defensive player?
Yeah, I was listening to a beat reporter for the Panthers that was on Adam Chernoff's podcast. He was not high on the Panthers, and they were talking about where is the pass rush going to come from, and he goes, well, I think they're going to keep an eye on that waiver wire. They do have #1 priority. If the waiver wire is where you're thinking you're going to get a pass rush, I mean, who's cutting a good pass rush?
Generally having a high waiver priority is good, because if you have a good personnel department, you're going to get some good steals when there's cut time. But generally, left tackle, edge rusher,
they're not premier
receiver
positions that you're going to be starting guys. It's like, hey, a backup nickelback that actually sees some time. Those kind of scenarios.
Cornerback and offensive line are like interior offensive line.
Yeah, some good old line depth.
Maybe even receiver if you have a better, but it's not going to be an alpha. It's not going to be a #1. So yeah,
Lawrence Taylor's not on the waiver wire.
Generally, those guys aren't made available.
Yeah, and Tomcat pointing out Panthers blow. They don't have a great personnel department. Well, kind of how they got in this mess.
Eric Eager's there now. He's got the spreadsheets.
It's like the case I understand, right? They underperformed their win total by 5.5 games last year.
Yeah, it's a buoy year. They're going to bounce back. But I think the bounce back is almost baked in with that 5.5. So I feel good with. I mean, honestly, my favorite play is just the under 5.5 wins. The one positive you can say about this team is they kept the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I don't think they will be the worst team.
But was the defense like? Was it worth keeping?
Well, also too in the defense's defense, it's not like the offense put him in any sort of decent situations either, right?
Yeah, which is why you can say, hey, they were 25th in DVOA on defense. That's but DVOA takes that piece out of, like, kind of adjusts out of, in some ways.
They probably won't.
And I would point to the Jets as a team that did, was able to be successful in spite of it. Has a very high DVOA.
Yeah, and their turnover margin was -9, so maybe they get a little bit of fumble luck. I think the problem is I just don't see them creating a ton of turnovers with the defense. Now maybe they get fortunate, things bounce their way. Ryan, like, to me, the absolute ceiling is like 7 wins, maybe 6-11. So I feel pretty good with my 5-12 and under 5.5 wins for my favorite play.
Favorite in 0 games. Yeah, and we will be playing the Giants against the Panthers in Survivor.
Oh God,
in Germany. What could
lock it up?
What could possibly go wrong?
So, what's your favorite play, Ryan? Is it just the under, or?
I mean, we did some discussing of Bryce Young most interceptions, or taking the lower on Jadeveon Clowney. Yeah, I think we just fade it. Just go under wins. Take the win total. Them getting to 6 does feel like we would be talking about them as like, yeah, this was a great step forward for Bryce.
I mean, we talk. It's half joke, half serious. But Ryan, when we go over the coach of the year criteria, it's usually you have to win 4 games more than the previous year. I don't think he would win it at 6-11 but 7-10. That's a 5-win difference.
What's more likely, Bryce? Well, I see.
Basically, if you'd like them to go over their win total, you should also probably be playing Canales coach of the year.
There's also a lot of just general love for Canales. I think there's something about his story, if you want to look into it, that might make people want to reward him for his hard work and his perseverance and commitment. Even though in this metaphor, he's bounced around teams like a whore going down Route 66. But I like the angle there. Although it's going to be tough if you only have 6 or 7 wins.
EB Steelers saying Bryce Young comeback player of the year. I would not play that.
They announced that he's not really eligible. I mean,
they've clarified. They've gone out of their way to clarify that they want it to be coming back from injury or outside situation. So
did I share that I had this conversation with Benson, Jeff Benson over at Circa? I said, hey, you guys aren't going to do comeback player of the year, and they're like, no, we can't. With the new criteria, it's not worth us dipping our toe in that. We'll follow to that market.
Well, and it's interesting because I'm totally like I don't even know what I've given. I think we talked about it briefly, but like comeback player of the year, I just don't. Now it's super confusing because I think there are still some voters who they don't have to hold by what they recommend or the spirit of the award, right? Like there could still be people, like if Bryce Young has an okay year, there could still be people voting for him. Even though they clarified by saying, hey, it's not about the sucking, it's about injury.
Yeah, but you also have the element of, I think there's also this like new 5-place system that allows you to collect points even if you're like a 5th place.
That's why I want no part of it. But if you do like the Panthers, if you're high on the Panthers, I think Canales coach of the year is your best bet.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, what would you play it?
If I was high on them, I would play. Yeah, you're probably right. What's the price on Canales?
I'll pull it up.
Is it better than the division?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, because
the ceiling is. It's fair to say that the ceiling being the division is fine for me because of what the other teams look like. You know, a couple teams that are relatively fragile with older players, and then the Falcons, who complete super
Canales
team.
is 18-1.
Yeah. Okay. Then I agree with that. That would be probably the best way to be optimistic about them.
They are 11-1 to win the division. So I would rather have the Canales.
More outs. I think you way more.
Because again, they could make the playoffs and he could win coach of the year. They could, like they sneak into the 7th seed. I think he would have a pretty strong case for coach of the year. And then if they win the division, very, very strong case, and you're getting a better price. So
it's hard to visualize what the team looks like that got them there. You know what I mean? It's like, so is this team gonna they would have a good offense and a defense that is somehow taking a step forward, and the division teams all around them are falling down. So
Stephen Cunningham in the chat saying, if you're high on the Panthers, you're just high.
Yeah,
Ain't smoking about weed.
that's also fair.
Hey, if you haven't signed up over on Underdog Fantasy, what are you waiting for? Love getting down on Underdog Fantasy, not only for the National Football League, college football pick'em. It's just perfect time. Ryan, NFL, and we're going to be giving out a ton of underdog plays throughout the season. We're going to give our favorite NFC South season long plays at the end of the episode. But Bryce Young at the Saints, higher, lower, 199.5 passing yards. What are you doing?
That's not the game I'm expecting him to show out. Oh, the Saints. I believe in the Saints defense enough to.
I mean, lower than 200 yards is pretty low.
Yeah, it's Justin Fields territory. Who would you rather have, Justin Fields or Bryce Young?
I would actually, if I'm doing fading the Panthers week 1, I think I go to Deontay Johnson lower, 53.5 receiving yards.
Oh no, because he could have all of it. He's the only guy getting open.
I think Adam Thielen snakes him.
I think he may have taken Adam Thielen's spot on the field.
All right, Ryan. Well, you can weigh in yourself. UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code SGPN. Get a deposit bonus up to $1,000. UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN.
All right. Getting some the chats teaching you how to say their name. That's always good. They know you're struggle with the pronunciation sometimes. So.
Oh, Stefan instead of Steven. Apologies, Stefan. Like Stefan Marbury. That's a pretty cool.
Urkel.
Yeah. Whatever happened to him? I think he's Urkel's in the weed business.
Yeah, I think Stefan Urkel got tied up in that whole Epstein Island thing. He was so cool. got invited to the island.
New Orleans Saints win total 7.5. I'm going under at 7 and 10. You're going over, Ryan, 8 and 9. So slight disagreement. We're both right around the number. What's your big picture takeaways on the Saints?
I mean, I think we kind of discussed how the Saints are one of these teams that generally have a decent, like a higher than you would expect floor and a lower ceiling, pretty narrow range of outcomes.
I think the floor is pretty low.
This was our debate that we had. We ended up right around the same range, which is, in the hunt graphic for the playoffs, will be in the mix late in the season. You have too many of these kind of pieces to me that are going to be good enough, whether it's Chris Olave, what Taysom Hill gives you in the red zone, the running game in general under Clint Kubiak.
Yeah. The case for optimism that you were making with Kubiak, the new OC, I see it. I'm just skeptical on Dennis Allen.
He's Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
He's new Jeff Fisher,
which, and it feels like he could, I mean, he's certainly in the mix. I mean, his odds are it's only 7-1 for him first coach fired. It's
Dennis Allen.
Yeah, it's tough for me. And actually, I'm looking at his coaching ranks, Ryan. What do you think his best year was as a head coach? Win loss.
Probably the first year after Peyton.
No, it was last year at 9 and 8. Then he had 7 and 10. Then 0 and 4 in Oakland, 4 and 12, 4 and 12. Yeah. I'm just out on Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. Dennis Allen and Derek Carr prove me wrong.
Let me paint the picture.
I get it. There's some talent on that roster.
Do you remember last offseason? Around this time, we're doing the team previews, the division previews, and we're talking about how Pete Carmichael is not able to install an offense, and they have to get John Gruden to come into town to help install an offense. Basically, since Peyton left, they've struggled because Peyton was one of these offensive leaders that didn't let anyone do shit. So no one knew how to do shit when he left.
Yeah.
Bringing in any level of competence there is going to create a scenario, especially where I like this team to start even a little faster. That when we discussed the Survivor and Saints Panthers week 1, I have a slew of personal entries across the universe of Survivor pools. I definitely plan on having some Saints action. I do think the offense will be just fine. I think when you go and look at Carr's numbers, he'll be able to move the ball down the field as we've talked about, right? He struggles in the red zone.
Yep.
They're going to, I forget who we were talking. Oh,
struggles on fourth
Vegas
down.
Matty with a great fantasy handicap. He likes to stack his kicker with Derek Carr. Thinks it's a very productive position.
They always settle for field goals and they're in a dome.
the difference this year is in the red zone. Now they have a slightly different look at running game. And I have a feeling that, whether it's with Taysom Hill or Juwan Johnson, who's miraculously back way earlier, or like, I do think Chris Olave is kind of being slept on as this alpha receiver. And yeah, Spencer Rattler looked pretty good spinning the ball in the preseason. So maybe Carr does get pulled eventually and they do become a more explosive offense.
Yeah.
But I think with the run game, like, you don't need too much from this. So that's why I think the floor is high. Cause I also think the defense tends to play well, especially in their division. I mean, Dennis Allen is a solid defensive coach. He's had some bad defenses when he was a coordinator, but the defense is definitely, again, it feels like a high floor, unless we have some injuries, high floor, low ceiling team.
Yeah.
So I don't have much else to add.
But high floor, but you still got him 8 and 9, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But having a high floor is like, I don't think this.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said high ceiling in there.
No. I'm saying, like,
you think they're steady middle of the pack with some. Yeah, because they'll win some games, and the back half of their schedule is manageable. 7 and 10 just makes a lot of sense.
Like a weird European hotel room when you get in there and like you can't stand up straight because the ceiling's too low. That's the Saints.
Yes.
What's the best bet for you?
I mean, I kind of like Dennis Allen, first coach fired, because I think it could start really bad for them. Yes.
Are they a organization that's going to do that?
I think so.
Do you think his seat's hot enough?
I mean, his only 7-1. That's kind of what it makes me think.
I don't think they know shit about this market though, because they always make like McCarthy's the favorite, and the Cowboys won't fire him in season.
Yeah, because they do good, and then they hit the playoffs.
I'm just saying, like, there's certain elements of that market that always seem a little wonky to me. He's certainly on a hot seat.
Well, and I think if you're the Saints management, it's like, yeah, he was 7 and 10 his first year. Yeah, they went 9 and 8. But do you feel like the Saints team is heading in the right direction? Do you feel like you're building something with this Saints team?
They feel like they're competing every year, though. So if you're telling me like they're not going to be delusional this year, it just seems like every year, like their cap situation is eventually going to be horrible because they're just continually trying to compete, restructuring contracts.
Yeah.
They are a team and that's part of the reason the floor is high, because they're always doing enough around, like, bringing, like,
I'll just
basically
go
mortgaging the future now.
Under 7.5 wins, favorite play.
All right,
what do you know?
I was pulling up some updated numbers just in case there's a bit of a change, but so one of two things will be true. And by the way, I'm looking at massive update in the Alvin Kamara to have the most rushing yards when we did the show in the NFC South. God bless CLV, 14-1. Do you know what the price is right now?
20-1,
4-1.
What?
Exactly.
What has changed?
I know. Well, that's why we like it so much.
Besides us getting in it.
All right. So, but on the other side, the receiving, this is something that I think we've debated a little bit, because I am a big fan of collecting Chris Olave in the back half of the second round in best ball or fantasy drafts, and he's plus 370 to have the most receiving yards in the division. And sure, maybe the receptions prop, if you can find it, is a better angle, but Drake London and Mike Evans are the guys ahead of him at plus 210. He's plus 370. He's the only alpha on that team.
Yeah.
Even with Derek Carr, someone you've made fun of a little bit, he was fine. And so again, 30% target share going up against Drake London, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson. I mean, Rashid Shaheed is the 6th option in the division, Sean. He's his teammate. Kyle Pitts is 17-1, the 7th option. So Kamara, his teammate, is the 8th option at 25-1.
I don't believe in Drake London. I like Mike Evans, but to your point,
this price is incorrect at plus.
I think Mike Evans is going to have a bunch of competition in the receiving room for the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah, they have at least Chris Godwin there. So I don't know. And again, he had 11-23 last year. He could have the same year and very much be in the mix to take down. And even if
Carr goes out,
so plus
and Rattler comes in, he's just going to chuck it to Olave. All right, yeah, I like the plus odds on that. Tampa Bay Bucks, Ryan, win total was 7.5. I had had them 10-7. You had them 10-7. I know they lost Dave Canales there. Baker's gonna fall apart. I don't know, man. I still.
Why is Baker going to fall apart? I don't get that narrative.
Yeah,
because Canales was like the puppet master.
Yeah, and everyone points out, oh, Canales loved that run pass, which was super inefficient. Which I don't know why they think that's going to be a good formula in Carolina when he's. That's the other reason why I'm skeptical on the Panthers. Kind of going back to them and Canales, like. For a guy who loves running the ball on early downs when it's inefficient, and then you have Chuba Hubbard as your main back for the start of the season, I don't get it. I don't see it. I think Rachaad White, obviously interesting fantasy play. I think they're going to be, I think they're going to be moving the ball. I mean, Baker has confidence right now. I think winning that playoff game was huge for him. Got paid. I think Godwin, they're moving him back in the slot. Jalen McMillan is going to be a pretty fun rookie. Is the outside receiver there?
I hope you don't mush McMillan.
What?
You've leaned hard into McMillan.
I mean, again,
counting those eggs.
No, he's gonna be involved in the offense, and he's a pretty fun watch coming out of that Washington offense. I mean, I get why Harrison and Neighbors are the favorites, but I think at 80-1 to lead the rookies in receiving yards for a guy who's looks like he's the starting number 2 receiver, that to me is that's crazy.
It's kind of deceiving. He's the number 3 receiver,
right? But he's gonna be out there.
Well, the expectation is they play a ton of 3 wide receiver sets.
Yeah, it's like saying a nickel cornerback's a starter. Most teams. I expect Tampa Bay.
No, I like the angle. I like the bet. I'm just saying. I'm just worrying that we need to knock on wood. Sean's collecting those eggs and saying he's going to have a feast.
I'm saying it's a great price. I'm not saying it's a lock by any means, but 80-1 for a receiver that's gonna be getting a ton of playing time, a ton of routes, ton of targets.
I don't want you to mush it.
That's just you loving your neighbor's stuff, Ryan. You're not looking at this rationally from an EV perspective. But what's your take on the Bucs?
I think they're running back the same team they basically had last year.
Yeah,
I think whether it's McMillan or Palmer, they have they have good receivers. They also, they made news recently because they're most likely cutting a very good defensive back because they have a very good defensive backfield. And, I'll trust Todd Bowles can drop some pressure. So I'm not really too concerned at what he doesn't have in the front 7. Yeah, maybe they're a team that's leaky against the run, but I think they're going to turn you over and create some plays on defense. And I think, some of the stuff that people are saying about the offense just feels disrespectful. And so I feel like you got a bunch of vets coming back to a situation to do, they just won the division. What do you think they're going to just sit there and be like, yeah, we don't have a problem with this Falcons super team being favored over us in the division. Now, Todd Bowles doesn't strike you as the kind of guy that's reminding his team about the disrespect that's going on out there. So, I love them week 1, love them in Survivor, especially.
Yeah,
and
I think they're
like the idea that Baker, I'm not worried about Canales leaving and there being like some sort of void or black hole of quarterback ability. That just seems silly. And also Baker played like the coach had experience with Baker before. Like this feels like maybe there was a little bit, further off field calculation here in terms of reuniting. So.
Yeah, he was when he got
with the Rams, the first part of his rehab stint.
Yeah, and maybe they regress a little bit with the turnover differential. It was +8. They got fortunate on some fumble recovery stuff. The fact that they are starting that Graham Barton, the center out of Duke, that's a great sign.
Also, they weren't that good last year, so it's not like Canales had them going, but there's room for improvement. I think sometimes when you hear people talk about it as if Canales had them, peak efficiency and it's only going to go down.
Yeah, it's like they were really efficient in the late down stuff, which is usually tough to replicate, your 3rd and 4th down conversion, but if you're not running the ball first, second
Yeah.
down, throw on third, very predictable. If you get Baker in some better spots, throwing on first down, getting Rashad White going in the passing game.
Well, yeah. Think about how the Rams attack, or their general strategy that they bring into a game versus what Canales has been doing.
Yeah.
To me, that's an upgrade, and I think it's being generally viewed as a downgrade.
So for me, the favorite play is just division at plus 310. I think they should be priced equally with the Falcons. I mean, considering all the continuity this team brings in.
It's one of the larger tickets I have in the futures portfolio. The two plus inches of glory.
Like even if you're making the case for the Falcons, I guess, but what I don't understand is the pricing. Like it just doesn't make sense to me that Atlanta should be just so far ahead.
Fantasy football.
Yeah. Well, they think it's just plug and play. Oh, just take this aging quarterback coming off an Achilles. Look at Kobe Bryant. How'd he do coming off an Achilles? Who do you think has more Mamba mentality, Kobe Bryant or Kirk Cousins? Kirk does seem like a nice guy, though.
I'm gonna go with but
Kobe wasn't
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, which is like
You like that? You like that?
if I was hanging out on the lake, I might rather hang out with Kirk Cousins. But if I'm betting money on a guy coming back from injury, I would actually rather have Kobe because that guy had like a psychopathic work ethic.
I there's no scenario I would rather hang out with Kirk Cousins. I can't.
Then
can't
Kobe?
get there. Yeah.
Nah, Kirk seems like he'd be fun.
Yeah. You don't think Kobe would be fun?
No.
Just constantly.
He seems
competing.
like a dick. But
All right.
yeah.
310. Yeah, division. That's the price.
Division plus 310 is the play.
There's no real other way to play it.
Ryan, let's hop back in the lab. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
Man.
Got my model firing on all cylinders, Ryan. You wouldn't believe it, but my model likes the Eagles, predicts the Eagles, but not covering the spread at 24.1 to the Packers 23.5. So maybe if you like the Packers in the spread, I know I'm going to be betting Eagles money line. I don't want to mess laying the one and a half. What do you mean?
It's money line, just taking the stress out of it.
Yeah, Eagles minus 130. I don't want to be sweating out a massive Eagles ticket Friday night in Brazil and have them win 24-23, and I'm mad that they didn't cover the spread. So I will be going Eagles money line, but apparently you got any models? And shout out to Weehawk, Ryan, saying that Veronica's picks should be added to the sheet.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I like adding a Veronica.
And I we'll see. I'm in the process of developing another NFL model.
Oh,
that
nice.
I think
it's cool because you can have multiple ones.
It's a lot about ground and pound. So I think that's the one I'm going to go with. Eduardo. All gas. Sean.
Yes.
Loves the Raiders. So maybe I rename all gas to Stacy.
Okay.
What do you think about Stacy?
I like Stacy. Yeah. She seems to play fast and loose.
Yeah, Stacy will be the NFL model, and Veronica will be the college football model.
We need to get like the Deal or No Deal girls, and like maybe get some where they reveal the briefcase, what's in there.
Yeah, and then I'll have Eduardo, and then maybe Jerome will be my other two, maybe more defensive based models.
Get your models going today with the 7-day free trial. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Atlanta Falcons win total 9.5. I'm on the under at 8-9. Kramer's on the under at 8-9. Kramer, why are you not high on this super team known as the Atlanta Falcons?
I mean, some of the super team stuff happened after we recorded the team preview too, Sean. I mean, we didn't even get a chance to really crown them as the true super team. They were only a baby super team, but then they brought in super team components on the defensive side. They can't lose.
I mean, I do think Judon is a good player. Yeah. I think your team is better having him on the team, but yes. I'm still skeptical of the coaching quarterback combination primarily. And Raheem Morris, to me, kind of know what we got with Raheem Morris. 21-38 as a head coach, not super optimistic about him. And I just think dropping Kirk Cousins in this offense with not enough time to prepare with the full off season, And I guess he was doing a bunch of the OTA stuff. Shout out to all the Falcons fans who corrected us. But no preseason work, no live bullets in that offense. I'm just a little skeptical.
I'm sure it's not related to an injury, right?
I mean, he's coming back.
Setback,
he's
right?
coming back off an Achilles. I realize he's not Kyler Murray and his game revolves around running around, but an Achilles is useful in planting, sliding around in the pocket, throwing the ball downfield. They have some primetime games. Love the idea of fading Kirk Cousins in primetime.
That trend hasn't been the best of late, in fairness.
It's still good on Monday nights, not as good on Sunday nights.
You gotta hone it in. All right, so you did, and the coordinators, right? There's just a tremendous lack of experience at both coordinator positions, and so when you highlighted the coach maybe not having the best success, and we all remember that the Saints GM shamed the NFL into hiring him back into a head coaching position, but this team strikes me as a more complicated actual coaching job, and so to not have the best experience and best track record of doing it as the head man and bringing in two coordinators who, let's be honest, you don't have experience being the head guy on offense or defense or calling plays or whatever that component might be. And then you also have to manage a super team with personalities. And
I mean, look at Judon going after Gerard Mayo. You think he's going to give a shit about what Raheem Morris has to say? And he's a mercenary. He didn't sign long term. Now maybe you could, if you're a Falcons backer, I guess.
How do you not get that deal done if you make that trade,
especially for a third rounder? You should be getting the guy for more than 1 year if you're giving up a third rounder. But to that point, now maybe I guess if you're a Falcons backer, you say like, hey, he's in a contract year now. He wants to play to get his stats up, but also he's clearly not tied to this Falcons team or anything. So just very skeptical.
Where is the leadership coming from?
That's the other thing. Like, who is the leader on this team?
And what happens if there's a little bit of adversity? And I do think if we're gonna have some reflection as a people after this season, when everyone is like, well, we saw Kirk Cousins his entire career be very mid. Dan Jones comes into his house, just knocks him out of the playoffs, and we decide to say, oh, the Falcons, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and because Arthur Smith was such a clown, they get rid of Arthur Smith, they sign Kirk Cousins, and they're all of a sudden fourth favorite in the conference to win it all.
Yeah.
Who do you think? Who is responsible for this?
And I'm trying.
Is it the Kyle Pitts honks?
I'm trying to think.
Is it the anti-Arthur Smith people?
Yeah.
Where is this coming from?
I think people hate Arthur Smith so much they they overestimate the anyone but Arthur Smith what the benefits are going to be. And Ryan, you mentioned it, like what this formula of bringing in a new coach, quarterback, coordinators, everything is new.
Jimmy Lake cratered the Washington Huskies football program in like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Leadership. And okay, I get it. Raheem Morris will call the defensive plays. I get it. Leadership. What's he there for then?
Especially if you're on the ceiling case, man, what has happened in the NFL that's even remotely similar? You look at maybe you look at that Rams team. Okay. Hey, they brought in, Stafford over Goff, and that gave them a nice boost up, but they had a good defense. They had continuity in Sean McVay. They had Aaron Donald on the other side. They had Cooper Kupp as a receiver. Like they had, and Cooper Kupp had like an MVP type season. So I don't see that out of Drake London. Drake
London's the one guy who I think could be good, but yeah, there's a bunch of other. I mean, we're already here. Tyler Algier to play a big role in offense. I mean, what's up with Bijan? You think it was Arthur Smith's fault for maybe sitting him down, or maybe Bijan's? Maybe there's a lot to deal with there. Again, I just think when you have a super team, but every time there's been a super team, it doesn't work out.
No. Well, and it's a super team, so there's tons of players swapping in and out, but there's literally no continuity from last year. So, everyone just looks at the team last year. Oh, hey, they were 7-10. They'll win a few more games with Kirk Cousins. That's not really how the NFL works, especially when there's this much turnover, both on the personnel and the coaching angle.
Also, this awesome version of Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. The same people that are high on him in Atlanta were saying how much of a trash playoff team they were because they were, their point differential. I don't get it. I don't get where people. It's like they forgot. They got the Men in Black on Kirk Cousins' his career and what he typically does.
And EB Steelers pointing out they could start out 0-3. Listen to this. Listen to their first few games. Steelers at Falcons. We're obviously going to be on the Steelers, Ryan. But Arthur Smith in a revenge game.
Cordero Patterson revenge game.
TJ Watt against that offensive line with Kirk Cousins making his first start off an Achilles injury, and you're getting points. Well, yeah, sure. Justin Fields, they suck. Okay, but good luck.
You're
TJ Watt versus the Atlanta Falcons. That's the angle you have to look at.
You're reminding me of the Michael Penix Rookie of the Year price being completely out of whack. I mean, one misstep on the turf down there in Atlanta.
Then week 2, Falcons go at Philly for the Eagles home opener, coming off extra rest from the Brazil game. Monday Night Football, Kirk Cousins on the road. Eagles defense have done very well against him in those spots. And then does it get any easier? Short week. Oh wait, Sunday Night Football at home against the Chiefs. Like them starting 0-3.
What could possibly go wrong? And then it's good because they have all this strong leadership in the building. From ownership to the GM, who we saw during draft day, they were very lockstep. Looked like they were very much in sync. A lot of continuity and good vibes there. And then the coaches. I mean, tons of good experience keeping a ship level through rocky time. So I'm sure nothing will go wrong.
Yeah, it's crazy that they're just.
Will Bijan have another headache this year and miss a game?
That was. Yeah, it sounds like my wife. Oh, I got a headache. So to me, I'm just gonna go favorite play miss playoffs at +165.
Really?
What are you doing, Ryan?
That's your favorite one?
No, I mean fewest wins at fewest wins.
Put me down for fewest wins.
Yeah, let's go.
I got the big ticket in my pocket.
Fewest wins at 150 to 1 is just just so fun because
it's a mid 5-figure score. If I
when things go bad, they can go bad pretty quickly. So fewest wins 150 to 1. Let's go. We are fading the Atlanta Falcons. All right, Ryan. Time for our under.
I mean, yeah. If it goes bad, I mean, basically, if any sort of serious offensive line injury, poof, there goes, and their defense is going to be trash. All right, let's do an underdog thing.
I'm on it. Where do we start? We start with
Falcons.
you want to start with the Falcons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get the negativity out of the way.
We got Bijan, Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Darnell Mooney.
I got a phone call from friend of the program, Dick Olson, this morning. He goes, "Listen,
I'm back in on Kyle Pitts.
Travis Kelce did not have 1,000-yard season until he was like 28. Kyle Pitts
already
22.
has one.
He's going to be a Hall of Famer." I'm like, you're out of your mind. Who do you want to fade the most? Is it just clear to just keep it Kyle Pitts? And
I mean, the Kyle Pitts touchdown angle, he's never had his higher lower set at 4.5.
He trips a lot too.
Last year was his career high at 3. Before that 2. Before that 1. So he has 6 career touchdowns in 3 years, and his higher lowers at 4.5.
6.
Yeah. I like the lower. I mean, you could also talk me into Kirk interceptions.
He might not play enough. I would say anything
right.
Kirk related is a little scary on that front. What's his receptions number?
64.5. Kyle Pitts.
That just seems really.
I mean, everyone highlights his perfect season as a rookie, and even then, he only had 68. But he only had 1 touchdown. I like either fading receptions or touchdowns. Your call, Kramer.
Let's go touchdowns. 5 touchdowns seems like insurmountable for Kyle.
Lower 4.5 touchdowns. What about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Which, by the way, if I was going to say something positive about the Falcons, it would be like a Darnell Mooney take. Maybe his number very low.
We got Mike Evans on the board, Baker Mayfield, Rashad White, Chris Godwin. I mean,
really, they're not willing to put up McMillan projections. Cowards.
Scared. season long. I'll definitely be playing him week 1 DFS. I'm sure I'll be getting some props on him.
The Godwin number for TDs is pretty low.
Okay.
Evans is Evans. We could just keep it simple and go Baker. I mean, the idea.
I kind of like just going through Baker. I mean, honestly, his passing yards 36.65.
I mean, he threw for 4,000 last year. Why do we think he's going to pass less this year?
Yeah, I don't see it.
I don't think that's. I think the way of the offense is going to be more passing, not less.
All right, higher 36.65.5 for Baker Mayfield. And next up, we got not the Carolina Panthers, the New Orleans Saints.
I mean, I think we can either look at Olave or we can look at something. Kamara is a little harder. The rushing yards total is so low, but I think so much of his fantasy or production is going to come through the air. I would say we circle Olave and find the best thing over there.
So Chris Olave, do you want to be high on his yards or his touchdowns?
Probably the yards. I mean, he was over that. I mean, he was. What did he have? He had 1,100 and change last year. So yeah, he's higher in the same scenario. Run it back.
All right. Higher Chris Olave 10.75.5 receiving yards. I do also like the touchdowns, but yards feels pretty doable.
Taysom Hill's still on the team. We got to be careful.
That is true. If Taysom Hill is listed as a tight end in your fantasy league and you're not drafting him, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, he's going to score touchdowns.
What about the Carolina Panthers, Ryan? Bryce Young, lower passing touchdowns is spicy. That's a fun fade. Adam Thielen, if we want to go positive. Jadeveon Clowney.
I'm not at all high on Adam Thielen this year. So
Okay.
you're on an island for that one. You can be on Adam Thielen Island yourself. I'm pretty sure he's not going to have the same role he had last year. Yeah, I mean, I was on the I believe on the episode I was on the lower for Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah,
just him on an island on a bad team, just coming off of a great situation in Baltimore. You want to take the lower 6.25,
or Bryce Young passing touchdowns. I also like lower, but
yeah, we can do that. It's spicy too.
All right, lower Bryce Young 18.5 passing touchdowns. Little spice in your life. So officially, underdogfantasy.com promo code SGPN. Kyle Pitts lower 4.5 receiving touchdowns. Baker Mayfield higher 36.65.5 passing yards. Chris Olave higher 1,075.5 receiving yards, and Bryce Young lower 18.5 passing touchdowns. Of course, get in your 32-word phrase for your chance to win a $500 NFL Circa Future. SportsGamblingPodcast.com/phrase. PHRASE. Check out our college football week 1 picks podcast. Got a weekday and a Saturday edition 2-parter for college football week 1.
Extra long.
Japan pointing out Mike Evans anytime touchdown every game. I'm sure we'll be running that one back.
Yeah, it's not official, but I'm sure Dick Puncher will be back on the pregame shows.
Pregame show right around the corner. NFL right around the corner. Cannot wait. And of course,
thank you for participating in the Sports Gambling Podcast.
For the Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm Sean, stacking the money green. He's Ryan.
Super team assemble.
Kramer, let it ride.